Alright, Diablo players, massive, and I mean massive update. We're going to be going through the big update patch for Season 9 and kind of show off what's to come. Really quick, though, I do want to mention that I actually have a lot of this content already ready for you guys. Like, if you guys want to see the brand new powers, I'll also leave a couple of videos in the pin. However, I really want to just cover this as an update, not necessarily going over like how the Nightmare Dungeon escalations work. If you guys just want gameplay of that, well, I will already have that for you guys. But I want to focus in on like kind of like the newer info here. So for starters, we are getting the new season content, the Herodric spellcrafts, but there is a few newer things that we are getting here, but there's a massive amount of patch notes and updates to the endgame and rewards that I want to go over. So first off, of course, when is the brand new season starting? It's actually starting very soon. It's July 1st over here. So that is when this is actually starting over here. July 1st is when season 9 starts. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, I want to go over kind of what's here in like the new update. So obviously there's going to be some new reliquaries. More than likely you're going to have to pay for this is like the battle pass skin, but there's always a seasonal pet that you can acquire for free. And then we also have like the brand new Astrath boss, and then this is the new uniques, and these are also getting updated. But we have the new Nightmare Dungeon escalation, by the way, is going to be a permanent update. So even if you are a Eternal player, you could still enjoy the brand new Nightmare Dungeon escalation as a form of endgame content. So let's go ahead and check out all of the things, mostly in blue because that's the updated like text here. I'm not going to go too far into like the story or whatever because I just want to go over this as sort of an update video. But if you want to learn how the powers work and stuff, I made a dedicated video towards that. Just want to go over like the number changes and kind of maybe what's to kind of look out for if you are interested in playing Season 9. So for starters, Celestial Surge, the Astral Magic over here, it got its lucky hit cut in almost half over here, so that's going to be a nerf on that. And then with Arcane Magic over here, which generates a blast, so the cooldown over here is 8 seconds and it goes down to 3. Realistically, the last number is the only thing that really matters. Everyone's going to be able to rank up their points over here for whatever seasonal power that we have, so it's going to be actually quite a nice little change, which it like knocks back the foes, and then if they collide with terrain you get like another bonus. But for the most part it's just like a 1.3 second cooldown, so that's overall going to be a nicer thing. Some of these are like smaller changes, but there is a pretty massive one specifically with Thorns, which I got super excited about, but then there's also a massive nerf to the build that uses it. So there's also Smoldering Ember, so the catalyst would then deal fire damage. So it destroys the enemy structures, and then it has like a chance to burn the ground beneath. So it's a small chance, but they've actually did a lot of extra bonus damage. So instead of it being 150, it's now 450% burn damage. So this could be a pretty nice buff if you are playing the burn variant of, let's say, the Hydra build. Although a lot of the multipliers come down to specifically beefing up the Hydra damage. So we'll wait and see like if this matters, because a lot of times with these powers and stuff, you got to test it out in the real game because there's some certain multipliers that either don't work or are double dipping with certain things. So we'll be on the lookout for that as well. And then there's a bonus where it deactivates the Chilling Winds for an additional 3 seconds, so that's nice. And then with the Shadow damage, it deactivates the summon monster effects for like 8 seconds instead of 5, so it's another buff over there. Then with the Glacial Nimbus, it deactivates the monster explosive effects for 8 seconds. And then this one over here, where the spell catalyst now deals poison and or poisoning damage. So this one got over a double buff, so we went from 150 to 300%, 320% poison damage over 4 seconds, and can only happen on each enemy every 3 seconds. And then they deactivates the vampiric effects for 8 seconds. Now the lightning one over here, they basically doubled up pretty much a lot of the powers over here. We're going from 150 to 320%, and then at rank 5, it deactivates the monster suppressor effects for 8 seconds. And then let's see what else got changed. Again, I'm just going over like the stuff in blue because that's what changed. So with Jagged Bramble, the lucky hit damage from your catalyst has up to a 50% chance to deal 150% of your Thorns damage plus 30% each rank. So okay, so I guess maybe they meant 3% each rank because it goes up by like 20. I don't know. Either way, this is a nice little buff over here, so you can get Thorns damage, which with your Spiritborn, I think it's on each of your hits. I'm not sure how this is going to register, but this could be a buff for the Spiritborn build. But a lot of times, again, it may interact in a different way because it has to be specifically from the new unique to get the bonus. But there is a massive nerf on Spiritborn, sadly here, which I actually kind of checked out before because I was trying to gather all the info. And then Sharpening Gizmo over here. So damage from your catalyst has it got changed, so it actually got a nerf here because pretty much always looking at the top numbers. So instead of 80%, it's now 50% chance to do 200% physical damage here. So that's basically doubled. And then your Catalyst Lucky Hit chance is doubled, and it's plus 30% for each rank. So this one could be good, as physical damage wasn't something that was really supported with the brand new updates, which is kind of nice because they added, it's not really meta to be honest, but there is a cool pen shot build that I think a lot of people will have some fun with it if they aren't like, you know, a competitive player. I think that the new pen shot will be fun to play around with it, and it does physical. And then there's a change with the Nightmare Orb, so it gets this ability to have a fear. So how it works is after the fear ends, there's a 50% chance to have another Starfall. So when you use that with like the Celestial Surge on it, and then with Disintegrate, fears unaffected enemies and deals 100% damage to them while they are feared. And then for 4 seconds, you used to have a restoration of maximum life and primary resource over here, which could have been pretty good, perhaps, if you were using the brand new like rogue build with the thing that would drain your HP for flurry. And then now it says instead of it just removes that part of it. Okay, so it just deals 100% increased damage to them while they're feared. Okay, so you don't get the life and primary resource. Now with propulsion, it removes any vulnerable effects to fear them. While feared, those enemies randomly form lesser mana blasts. Okay, and then we lose out in this effect to fear unaffected enemies for 4 seconds after the fear ends, forming a mana blast at the very end over here. Then with Astral Pillar, it says that every 9th wave it fears for, it used to be 4 seconds, it says now its enemies close to it are taunted and have their fear removed. And then Solar Flare automatically taunts and lures enemies. That got removed. Now with Cosmic Anomaly, the anomalies fear and apply a 90% slow to unaffected enemies. It's like a 10% boost. It's like whatever. It doesn't really matter too much. And then with the Frigid Heart over here, we are getting a change to the Cosmic Anomaly, and instead of a 10% chance for them to preserve themselves, because these ones, I believe it goes in and it just like explodes, and then you have like kind of get these things, because they just regen over time. So you have a better chance to have it utilized for, I guess, summon builds. So that's a change over there. Then with the Bloody Charm, it creates the following effects for each catalyst. So the only one that got changed, again, that's in blue text over here, the propulsion. So successful executions grant 70% movement speed for 5 seconds. Okay, that's a lot of stuff to really go over, but overall, I wouldn't say that there's something that's like, it really sticks out as like, oh, you can make a build with it, but we'll wait and see again if there's some sort of double dipping with this. So Will Breaker over here, this is, I guess, one of the gems. So Will Breaker, physical damage you deal shatters enemy spirits, causing them to take 40x more physical damage for 6 seconds. This effect applies when first damaging a boss or elite, or when they're affected by a crowd control. Okay, so you either have to build the stagger bar or just delete them in 4 seconds or 6 seconds for that 40x physical damage boost. So that one's definitely going to be a huge one to actually add, especially if you can burst it down fast enough. I think that one definitely has some play. Again, physical was kind of like the area where they were really lacking. And then with the Revier Horn, after you injure or kill an enemy, your summons are empowered. This is going to be good for the Hydra, so this is going to be a buff because those are the summons there. Now there is a problem where it does kind of suck against bosses because it has to be either injure or kill an enemy. Now there is also like a jewel that you can throw in that spawns in like these Herodric Guardians, and if you can get those to spawn in, it's random, but then you could still kind of upkeep the buff. It's going to be interesting to see how players play with that, because it's definitely going to be one of the top tier things, especially if Shatter is not changed here. But that's a big extra damage boost. So it's almost doubling it, going from 30 to 50%. So again, that's a specific buff to the Hydra, and then also the new Skelly Mage build will definitely benefit off of this, as long as they fix the bug. I guess there was a bug with the gloves. Hopefully it's mentioned here, but we'll check it out. A lot of these are my first time checking them out, though. Anyways, Liminal Echo. This Herodric no longer drops when playing in hardcore. Oh, so they're making it so you can't make it so if you take fatal damage. Okay, so that's like a nerf to, I guess, hardcore players for having that. They are nerfing one of the best things in the game, though, guys. This is the Idol from Below, which pretty much everyone ran for the primary stat. And for no reason, they decided to nerf the max life by 2%. So it gives you a little bit less stats over here. And then this is a nicer change. Jewel Guardians generated by the Idol. Again, this is why this is going to be one of the best ones for pushing builds, again, with Shatter or any interactions where you need multiple targets. It's going to make it so they can no longer appear in training grounds or after a dungeon's objective has been completed. They also now spawn at specify it's probably specific intervals as opposed to random times. So I think that's pretty good. I didn't know that they just spawned in random times. So this could be really good because this would add consistency. If any of you guys have been like, a pusher in Diablo, you know that like a lot of times, especially in Diablo 3, because that's the game that has the leaderboard, depending on getting a conduit or a power pylon, that's like that would determine if you were going to get the rank 1 push or not. So I think having consistency is going to be really great with this. It's going to be interesting to see how players also interact with how the timer works, because that means you have to make sure that you're going to get to the boss at a very specific time, right? And then Spark of Creation, after you cast a Cataclysm skill, you gain... wait, they nerfed this? There was one that gives you a % one anyway, so I don't even feel like this... Does this one even matter? We'll wait and see. I know that there was one that people were playing for resources. I don't know if it was this one, because I believe, it was like a % one. Anyways, the Cataclysm skill gains 20% cooldown. Okay, that one wasn't changed, right? Okay. So again, we're looking at the brand new Herodic Strong Rooms. So let's see if anything got changed. I know that there is a reward change. Here it is. Here's the blue part. Again, that's why I wanted to make this video going over the updates. So, within the strong room, you have 100 seconds to ramp up the carnage and earn as much attunement as possible. You stay near the pillars to satisfy their base needs, and keep in mind the specific Herodic pillars selected prior to the run maximize your Herodic attunement. You guys might see it in the gameplay. These are all Season 9 gameplays in the background, by the way. And then these pillars rituals can be completed in any order, and these rituals now complete more quickly with a larger radius to kill within. This is good because sometimes enemies were outside, so I would say that this is pretty easy to get all the way up on a good build. I believe like 4,000 was like the max that you can get, and there were definitely builds that were a lot worse for it, but the rewards are pretty decent from it, to be honest. So I think that is good that they are making it easier for some of the other builds that might not be able to kill them, because again, it has to like be in a circle. Then upon completing each pillar, all monsters kills will grant +2 Herodic attunement for 15 seconds. Tread carefully, for any deaths will remove time from your strong room run. Okay, so this is a newer update to the end game. Again, these are for the Nightmare Dungeon Escalations, where you would go into these rooms. You select some modifiers. Again, that video is already uploaded if you guys want to check out the new content for the end game. But this one, it may have it in the gameplay in the background eventually. But basically, think of it kind of like adding modifiers similar to the Infernal Hordes, but it's a lot. It's kind of like you select these options on like what you're going to be doing. But again, just check out the video if you really want to see it. So it says locate and sacrifice the shrines in the room, and then when the time runs out in the strong room, you need to fight one of several potential bosses. Okay, I forgot. I think it was like the Blood Bishop, right? So in the PTR, if any of you guys played, it was always the same boss again and again. They just didn't program any other bosses. So at least now there's more bosses. That's a good thing, because I don't want to kill Tomb Lord or the Blood Bishop, infinite times in this game. But so that is a nice change over here for like the end game for the strong rooms. And then on defeating the final boss, you have the option to select a Grand Herodic Cache, which scales its rewards based on the amount of Herodic attunement earned within the strong room. So I think it's going to be more valuable to play a meta build at the end of the day. Even though, I'll be honest, most of this stuff is pretty easy, there still is a massive difference between playing a meta build and not getting, well, at the time of me playing the PTR, I believe 4,000 was kind of like that, about the max that you can earn. And then so earning powerful rewards such as Obdicite, on leaving the strong room, you will also be given one of the following buffs for completing the strong room, which will last until the end of your Nightmare Dungeon. Check to see which one you've already earned by checking the active buffs above your action bar. Okay, cool. So it's random. Okay, so there's different random buffs that you can get. So one of them is going to be experience. So you gain experience from monster kills. Okay, I wish they told us what this amount is, because most of the time, if you guys didn't know, the big XP that you get when you are playing towards the end game is always with the pit, and it's at the very end. The monster XP is like so small, even if they're like 30-40%, it's only really like a 10% overall like XP boost, because the rest of the XP that you get is all from the end of the pit. So if they can make this good, this number needs to be pretty big, because it says specifically monster kills, not like the pit, but it only lasts until the end of the Nightmare Dungeon. So you can't like go here, get the buff, then slam over to the pit. So we'll wait and see. If this isn't like, a viable option, then I'm going to be kind of disappointed, because then we still have to slam down the pit for the Paragon points. And then there's also Reputation. You can get increased Herodic favor from your monster kills. Okay, so it's like the seasonal power that we can upgrade. And then we have Obdicite. Okay, so that's going to be from the Masterworking. And then the increased gold. I'll be honest, like getting 25% more gold in game does not really matter, because at the end of the day, if you want real gold in Diablo, we all know we have to go to Diablo trade website and we have to trade our items to get gold that people RMT. That's the reality of Diablo 4 in the current state. But 25% more for the people that don't want to engage in trade, it's really not that bad. But if you really want to buy items, you're not getting it from just playing the game. It has to be through trade. Anyways, heraldic files. Monsters in the dungeon can drop heraldic files. Okay, I think this is also from like the seasonal currency. So this one is probably for the bounty board, and one of them is probably for upgrading your actual like powers, right? Like with these powers over here. I think these ones are already maxed. I think some of the bigger powers are like some of them you put like 5 points in, and some of them you put 20 points into. Is kind of how the upgrade works. Again, check out the video if you want the full thing. So surviving the escalating nightmares. Okay, what else is new here? So escalating nightmares are a new endgame activity. Honestly, it's more just like doing nightmare dungeons, chaining them. That's kind of how it works. And then it's also going to make it so the nightmares escalate as you go through each dungeon, and each dungeon affix stacks onto the next dungeons as you continue through the torment tier. So it does make it even harder, because I believe before it didn't stack. And then manage to fight your way through all 3 torment tiers, and waiting for you at the end is a date with the exalted version of Astaroth himself. Okay, so I guess it's always going to be him. So it looks like that they are making this more difficult. If you guys didn't know, most people would have considered, we're doing the new endgame content in the background for the gameplay. It's pretty much, again, just chaining the dungeons, but if we add more modifiers, it will make it a little bit harder, but it will just make it so the bad builds are going to be unfunctional, like you can't really utilize them towards the endgame. So I'll be dropping a lot of builds very soon, guys, and so far I would say Hydra is the one that you probably want to lock in for 99% of players. It is kind of the build of the month. The Hydra and the Spiritborn are going to be my 2 recommendations. I know Spiritborn is getting nerfed. We'll talk about that once we get to the patch notes here, because I was kind of upset, but it is probably necessary. So the Heraldic Knowledge Seasonal Reputation track. Okay, so to obtain the Escalating Nightmare Dungeon, you I guess obtain it from the Seasonal Reputation track or through Heraldic caches granted from strong room. So if you do the strong room, you can get one, and I'm pretty sure then you can then get a strong room. Well, if you get it from the strong room, you can open it up and then get it again. So I'm wondering if we're going to be able to like consistently just chain these, especially in a group. That might be pretty easy to do. And then on completion of the first Nightmare Dungeon escalation, a heraldic portal will spawn, which displays the affix information for the next dungeon. Again, you get more modifiers. You'll see it in the gameplay here. In pre-torment difficulty tiers, completing the last dungeon will finish the Nightmare escalation. Okay. And then the other newer notes, if you start the Escalating Nightmare in Torment 1 or above, on completion, the third sequential Nightmare Dungeon, you'll finally be transported to... Okay, so I guess you have to do it on the higher difficulty, because this is where I believe we get the newer gems. So there's talking about the new boss here. This Astro's boss fight can potentially be modified through Nightmare Dungeon affixes, which dial up the heat on his attacks. So this... Nightmare Dungeon escalation, because the blue again is the new thing. So this actually might be a very difficult boss fight, because he already can one-shot you. He had an invisible one-shot, which I'm hoping gets patched. But yeah, that's going to be basically something that if you add more damage on this boss, which already does pretty good damage, yeah, we'll drop a guide on how to beat him. But more than likely, my suggestion would be just to get so much DPS you one-shot the dang thing. Anyways, defeating Astros has a rare chance to drop a heraldic jewel, slay the charge duke himself, to try and earn one of these powerful tools. So I'm not sure if that means all of the jewels drop from him, or he just drops like the best ones. More than likely that's going to be the case here. And then these are permanent changes. So we are getting the Nightmare Dungeons, the heraldic strong rooms and escalating nightmares, and new Nightmare Dungeon affixes. These are all getting added back into the game. A lot of these though, guys, I'm going to be straight up with you, they are kind of things that they have removed from the game back in Season 0, like the little red rock that would fall you and explode every once in a while. Those are kind of like the new affixes that are getting reintroduced in the game, which is really weird because people complained about them, so then Blizzard removed them, and now we're getting them added back as new content. And I'm just wishing Blizzard would just create new content for a new season, because I just think that if you remove them, you know, for a reason, why are we adding it back as new content, you know? So hopefully they can take that feedback, and, you know, maybe in Season 10 we can get, like, new content, because, again, the way it feels like is it's just slamming down Nightmare Dungeons back to back. Okay, so exclusive to Season 9 are going to be, of course, the Season quest line. There's probably going to be a bounty board, and you get a spark at the very end, the Seasonal Reputation, the Heraldic Jewels, and the Spellcraft powers, again, that got a dedicated video. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's pretty cool, actually. Even though there's only 5 new powers, you get to kind of throw on your elements, and you can kind of change the way that they interact. You can teleport, you can have something that shoots out, pushes things back, you can have a damage over time. There's a lot of cool stuff, actually, to be honest, with the powers. I actually like the powers a lot this season. And then new Nightmare Dungeon affixes. You can see where we have Herodic Gem Reserve, Explosive Elites, Equipment Delve, and Hunters. I feel like it's kind of vague. Like, it should tell you, like, the gem makes sense. That means you're going to probably get more gems, right? I'm guessing you get more equipment. Maybe there could be ones that would say specifically what you would get. But because we can't use any currency, if you guys have ever played Path of Exile, you can think of these kind of like maps, but if you can't modify the maps, I really don't see what the point is unless we can like trade these, because they are account bound anyways. So when we just salvage them and we just craft new ones again and again, I don't even know, by the way, if you can craft them. As far as I'm aware of, you get them from the strong rooms anyways, which is from the Nightmare Dungeon. So we'll wait and see if we can re-roll these in anyways, because I just don't see why we have mods, because we're just either going to run them, or, you know, we see like something that's good, we'll run it. But if we get a bad one, maybe I'm hoping we can salvage it, and then we can craft these with the powder, and then we can actually choose the one that we want. So there is Herodic Reserves. Oh, is this one that they mentioned? So it spawns in loot chests with specialized rewards. The rewards are gem fragments, gold, obols, and seasonal currency resources. Okay, so nothing too special here. I really wish they would add more ways to get mythics in the game, because I really feel like farming mythics is a pain in Diablo every single season, especially if you need like 3 for the build, right? And then spawns in, okay, oh, it's telling us right now, this is great news. So Equipment Delve. So we get weapons, jewelry, armor, and then power shrines here. Oh, I heard that we were getting new shrines eventually too. Spawns in additional shrines of this specific type. So there's one that gives you shrines. Miscellaneous experience will have a chance to spawn on kill, and experience, it's probably... well will spawn somewhere. Okay, so you get an XP well over here, and then if you can get maybe some extra bonuses on the percent, again, that showed off earlier, hopefully this will be really good. And then the Herodic Strong Room, guaranteed Herodic Strong Room. Okay, so you get a guaranteed room, and then earn the new unique items. So this is where the buffs and the nerfs for specifically the classes will be coming in. So, Who's of the Mountain God? The cleave radius got changed on this. Now, if you guys were wondering, is the Barbarian good? I'm showing you guys Barbarian gameplay in the background. It was only good with the bug to get infinite damage. Now, to be honest, without the bug, it is not. It ain't it, man. It really is super far behind because the damage ramp up. I believe Rob put it at like B or C tier. When it with the bug, it's an Uber S tier. Like, it's the best build in the entire game, 100%, because it does infinite damage. Like, literally, it gives you infinite damage. There is other ways to get infinite damage with dot, but it takes so long to ramp up, it's really not worth mentioning. But the buff to this, after they're nerfing the there's no way that they keep the infinite damage in. To give it cleave radius, I would say maybe not the best scene to go ahead and look at, to be honest. Okay, now as far as Druid gets a massive buff. So this is on the Rotting Lightbringer, which we actually opened up with the gameplay. This is the Puddle Poison Splash Druid, right? So how it's getting buffed over here, we're getting additional willpower. It was like a small little, like, you know, extra buff, but the poison damage here is getting a massive buff over here, going from 150% to 550%, so another 400% damage. We're going to Diablo 3 stuff, right? No, to be honest, this is additive damage. It's still good though, but like, think of it like almost as getting like 1 or 2 extra aspects. It's still very awesome buff, very good stuff indeed. But the main buff is this right here. It used to be every 10 seconds you would get this puddle, so thank you Blizzard for watching my video. Hopefully they checked it out and they were like, you know, Slaydrabusiness was right, we can't have it every 10 seconds because it feels bad. So what they're doing is they're making it so if no puddle is around you, when you use Pulverize, it's going to spawn in a puddle, and it's going to guarantee its own overpower and deal up to 600% of its normal damage as poison over 7 seconds. And then Pulverize causes all puddles to splash for 20 to 60% of their total damage within their areas around them. Pulverize radius increase will affect the size of the puddle and its splashes. So this is crazy OP. Druid, guys, might be one of the best classes. I'm curious to see how it works, because it says if no puddle is around you. So if the puddle splash can actually do like an overlay. If you've ever played Path of Exile, like, overlapping is massive for certain skills. And if we're getting not only this poison damage, getting a pretty 400% increase, which is pretty good compared to 150, right? And then we can just spawn like several puddles, and all of them guaranteeing its overpower. Druid might be the best class in the game. Now, again, I don't know. Sometimes interactions don't work properly. Like, I've always made build guides in Diablo, and sometimes the best build is some sort of bug or not intended interaction. But my thought process is, because it's trying to increase the size, our goal is to now overlap the puddles. And if I can spot in like 5 or 6 of these puddles, it's really going to be interesting to see if that actually works. And I'm wondering if other druids, if you play in a party that, because it says all close puddles to splash, not yours. I don't know. So I'm really curious to see if the best build in the game will be to just get 4 druids, everyone's spawning these puddles, and then you're just deleting every form of content. So if that's the case, guys, druid might be the best class. Again, I don't know without playing the game. As far as necromancer goes, there was a bug with one of the gloves. Apparently, like, the damage wasn't really working properly. So let's see what the newer changes. So it says skeletal archmages teleport to safety when attacked, and their attacks occasionally shatter on impact, which can do extra damage here, and they target up to 3 things. And then the time between attacks shattering has been reduced by 50%, so that should be a pretty big buff, right? Skeletal archmages now become unstoppable for 1 second after teleporting. Oh, that's great. So then they don't get, like, they don't teleport into some sort of AoE or frozen, you know, whatever thing that's gonna like ruin their day. So I would say that this is probably a good buff. They didn't mention, or at least right here, that like the plus X damage multiplier wasn't working. So hopefully that will get fixed, because if that does not get fixed, then the build is still not what I would consider up to par. You're probably better off playing the Bloodlance, which from the PTR, that was like the best Necromancer build. If you guys want like the tier list, I already dropped it, but we'll make an update to it, because I actually think that Druid has potential to, again, be like the super Omega S tier. Again, if you can overlap that, that's going to be crazy. Now, as far as Rogue goes, I'm sorry, but the Rogue is not too hot. Now, this should be in blue, by the way, guys. I don't know. It's good that I checked it out earlier, because this did get changed. So this should be in blue, by the way. So how it works is it's a new special helm, and the important parts is it does give you rings to flurry, but you'd have to get a GA on specifically this to even make it good, because there's a mythic unique called the Air of Perdition, which is just far superior in like almost every single way, because it doesn't have this like clunky gimmick that you have to get around. So how it works with this new helmet, which is called the Death Mask of Nerm. Okay, so what it does is you can overexert yourself while casting flurry, which spends HP, and they reduced it instead of it being 10% to 8, but honestly it doesn't fix the clunkiness of it, when you don't have enough energy. So you have to spend HP to actually get the buff. It says spending life to cast flurry increases its damage by up to 70%, and that should be an X multiplier, and it used to go up to 50, and then also your attack speed by 50%. So in terms of design, to be honest, like, you lose out on the crit with Air Perdition, and then you also lose out on like the other multiplier, which would be, I believe, like 60x, right? And then you have the plus 200% damage like angels and demons. The thing is that the 50% attack speed, you can usually get to 100% bonus attack speed in Rogue. It's pretty easy because they have category 1 and 2, and it's really achievable for the most part. But you are getting a 20x damage boost, which puts it 10% over Air Perdition, which still is kind of mid, because you have this really clunky mechanic where you have to spend HP, so you cannot run things like Starless Skies, as far as I'm aware of, because that would cause problems with resource cost reduction, and you need to burn into the other resource. So it makes it a little bit harder, so try not to get any like resource generation. Otherwise, you will not be able to burn into it, and you need to do that. And it does last for 5 seconds, but we'll wait and see if there's any cool ways to actually mess around with this, because there is an aspect, and I don't know how it interacts, when it says like every 5 seconds you spend your HP to get a set of bonus damage. Now, I'm not sure how the interaction is going to interact, if it's going to register as, you know, itself spending it, even though something else is spending it. So we'll wait and see kind of how the interaction works, but that is something to keep in mind. There is an aspect that when you cast like a core skill every 5 seconds, which is the perfect timing for this. So if we can get that to work, it's still a mid-tier build. As far as I'm aware of, this one is still going to be like 10 tiers behind the Death Trap, which is the Rogue build that most likely everyone's going to want to play for 3 seasons in a row, unless there's another nerf that I'm unaware of. But it already got nerfed in the PTR, but it's still kind of the thing. Now, for the Hydra. So it's actually getting buffed, guys, in a weird way. So for starters, this is the Ophidian Iris, which is the unique amulet. So how it works is you basically get more Hydra heads. Every single Hydra head gives you, I think it's like 100x damage, yeah, per Hydra head. They didn't nerf it, which I'm super surprised by. They give you rings to Primordial Binding instead of Devouring Blaze, so cool, whatever. But they actually remove the critical strike chance, which is not necessarily that bad of a thing, because if you do play the burn variant, well, crit doesn't really help you out, really. They're could be some other interactions with like Paragon boards, like based on your critical strike chance, you get X, Y, and Z. But for the most part, I think the attack speed is going to be better for the burn variant. To be honest, I want to say the burn variant in theory has more potential for damage, as you can ramp up to infinite damage. It will specifically help out against the bosses. Think of it kind of like Bane of the Stricken. If you have just more attacks going out, it's going to ramp up faster, right? So that's cool. So yeah, Hydra build not touched as far as I'm aware of. Like, I mean, it changed here, but like it's good. Like, as in, we're okay with that, which is awesome. Then there is the Blazan's Max Ladle. This is for the Spirit board. Here's where we get kind of sad news, boys. So the unique power, each attack damaging close enemies for it used to be up to 300% of your Thorns damage and deals 100% of this damage as poison over 3 seconds. Each time you use Retaliate with Thorns for 5 seconds, its damage gets increased by up to 300%. Now this one was definitely overperforming. We do get another 50% boost of like the Thorns, but I don't know if that one will apply because it says each attack that you are dealing, if the new power counts as your attack, which it should, because it did work with other things, at least with the Barbarian, unless they changed like the wording on it, that you would still get another 50% on that. So because we're getting another 50% buff, you can think of it, instead of like nerfing it by, you know, 150, it's 100% nerf, if that makes any sense, like percent-wise, which is like 30%. I still think the build is very, very powerful, but I know that there's people out there that like see it, something cut in half, and they're like, I'm out. Hey, that's cool. But I'm telling you guys, this build is still going to be very good. I want to say it should be able to still complete a pit 100 with really, really good gear. It did a pit 117, as far as I'm aware of, was the highest clear, and I think it's still going to be good. So I wouldn't sign it out as like a terrible build, because you can still get the double dipping, as far as I'm aware of, with like the Jaguar Ultimate. And then new unique drop locations. All right, this is actually important. So where do we get some of these new uniques? So the Deathmatch, so this is the Rogue and this is the Barbarian one, dropped from Beast and Ice. The Varshan is going to be drawn the Lightning Rotbringer and the Blazan's Max Ladle. So basically this is the Druid, the two-handed, this Poison Splash Druid, and then this is for the Spiritborn. So we're going to need to farm that for the Spiritborn, because that's probably going to be one of the classes I start out with. Obviously we're going to start out with Rogue first, because that's a requirement on my channel. But next up for Andariel, the Hand of Naz, which is the ooh, that really sucks for the Sork. Okay, but as far as Andariel goes, the Hand of Naz is going to be for the Skeleton Mages, and then the Ophidian Iris is for the Hydra, and that's what you're going to be going for. Oh, Duriel also spawns in this. Okay, so people are just going to farm Duriel, because let's be honest, nobody doing on Duriel. That boss is just too long. And then with Urivar, the Hooves of the Mountain God, the Running Lightbringer, Death Mask, and the Blazing. Okay, so Urivar drops a lot of the good ones too. And the Harbinger of Hatred drops Ophidian Iris as well. Wow, okay. But this one's kind of annoying too. It has a little game where you have to grab the ball, shoot it out. Okay, so it says carve through the sins of the Herodric Reliquary. Okay, okay, we expect to see like some, you know, Battle Pass skins and stuff, but did they show off any? Okay, so here's the Battle Pass skin. Wow, that's actually a pretty wild looking skin. All right, so it almost reminds me, like, kind of like, you know, it reminds me of, if any of you guys have played like Marvel Rivals, it almost like is like a rendition of like an evil thin Groot, you know. That's what it reminds me of, like evil Groot, the evil Groot over here. So this is what it charges. And then other reliquary items must be unlocked using favored tokens. So I guess there's a little goat pet over here. And then the dog pet is the one that's free. And then there's the season journey here, and it still requires you to do Torment 4. I remember this was a complaint. If you guys are watching this Blizzard, one of the complaints that a lot of people had was that you wanted Torment 4 to be like a premium thing where only the top 10% of players are even reaching Torment. But the thing is that if you're making the season journey require it, and you've nerfed all of like the loot drops, you've also nerfed a lot of the builds to be able to even compete in Torment 4, you just kind of force people to pigeonhole and only play very specific meta builds. But I'll give you guys the meta builds, so if you're new here and you want the builds, I'm going to be dropping them very frequently before the season starts, so make sure you guys are following a good build guide. I don't care if you follow mine or not, but you must play the meta for the most part if you really want to be able to do Torment 4, because your Kronstaff Druid build, as much as I like that thing, it's still not up to par, even though we've been buffing the basic skills over here. So that's a really cool pet, though. That's awesome. Here's the little pet. I'm sure you can pet the doggo, because that always gets asked. Okay, so on top of that, there is going to be, oh, there's a cool fox over here, but I think you're going to have to buy this one. So yeah, new shop, obviously we expect these, but these are going to cost real money. And then on top of that, there is a update with some sort of DLSS NVIDIA. Oh, also I want to let you guys know, just in case any of you guys are have not updated your drivers for NVIDIA, I'd probably recommend not to. And even though it might not be that bad for Diablo, but I just know that everyone, including myself, I updated my drivers and I had a lot of problems, and I had to roll back. So if you guys have not updated your drivers, don't update your drivers if you're running an NVIDIA. At least right now, wait till maybe they actually update it. I think Darth Microtransactions, another Diablo partner, also mentioned that. Yeah, don't update your NVIDIA drivers yet, guys, until they fix the issue. Otherwise, you're gonna have to find something and roll back. But basically, that is the new news, man. There's a lot of stuff to go over. But let me know, guys, what class do you plan to start off with Season 9? You guys know, like I have to start with Rogue. Instantly go into Spiritborn as soon as we go and do some good pushing and hit some high ranks on the leaderboard. And then, like I said, probably Spiritborn and then Hydra Sorg for sure, because Hydra Sorg will probably be the fan favorite. But I'll leave a bunch of videos if you guys want to check out gameplay, even though like the Poison Druid is going to get way more buffed. I think that one has high potential to be the top tier build, especially if overlaps work, and if it works on a party, you get 4 druids and they all spawn in the poison puddles. I think it's going to go crazy. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.